Welcome to Charity Therapy, the podcast where we explore the ups and downs of the nonprofit sector and answer your burning questions. I'm your host, Jess Birkin, owner of Birkin Law Office, and I'm excited you're here. Imagine hanging out with me and my super smart, funny nonprofit expert pals. You get to ask them anything about your nitty-gritty nonprofit life and get their wisdom for free. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just strapping on your nonprofit boots, we're here to share stories and remind you you're not alone on this journey. So get ready to join the conversation and bring me the tough questions. I ain't scared. Ready to rock? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Charity Therapy. And with me, I have Megan, whose brain is
Hello.
empty.
There are no thoughts up in there. It's just a bunch of fuzzy things, which I'm sure will make for a really great podcast episode.
I'm sure it
Anybody
will.
else just feel like their brain is like, the TV when it got turned to the wrong channel and it's just like snow. That's what I think of all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
the snow sound.
I'm like, sometimes my brain just needs to dissociate.
Just dissociating hard. Just
how
like
else are we
self-protection
coping
mode
with 2025
engage.
these days,
Honestly.
You find moments of joy and then you go back into snow.
That's right. We control the horizontal. We control the vertical.
I
Now,
really
do you know
don't.
that
I'm
reference?
immediately like, what are you talking about?
Oh my God. Someone needs to write in and tell Megan.
You're not
what
even
that
going
is.
to tell
I'm not even
Oh,
gonna tell
rude,
you.
honestly.
Mm.
Okay. All right. I forgive you, but it's rude.
Somebody write in so we can share with Megan what that's about. Someone validate my reference, please. This is about me and my ego, obviously.
It's never about anything else. Like, why else would we start a podcast,
Oh, God. Okay, what are we doing?
So, speaking of the reason for snow brain these days, but there's a lot going on in the world out there. Lots of news, lots of changes ever since, January 20th. Who knows what happened on that day? But it's been really hard to suss out like what's real and what is like panic, fearmonger, and it's coming from all sides, right? You have fear-mongering from the right, fear-mongering from the left. Like somehow, no matter who you are, it's like everything's falling apart. So, and I know clients are feeling it too. I know you talk to them. I know I talk to them. So just for a moment, for all of us, before we get into it today, can you tell us, what would you say to any of the nonprofit leaders out there who are just kind of like going through it right now?
Yeah. First of all, real good time to schedule yourself a day off with no notifications and no media. Real great time to do a long hike in the woods without your phone. If you can't manage that, seriously, like go on YouTube, look up like vagus nerve exercises, get some somatic stuff going, take a deep breath, like let your feelings exist, feel the feelings, but don't let them run your day. And try not to get so stuck in, a freeze response or fight response, just arguing on the internet or whatever, that you're just kind of down this fight or flight rabbit hole instead of really staying present with what you need to be doing for your life and for your organization. We got to get back into the body, come back to your mission at work. What actionable things do we need to do right now? If anything, maybe nothing. And that may be disconcerting. And, really just try to detox from the social media if you need to. And I say this as a person who lays in bed scrolling, the TikToks before I close my eyes for the night.
We can say that
I fully understand.
Doesn't mean that we're good at them.
How hard it is. That's right. Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do.
I will say, when you said Vegas, I immediately thought you meant to go to Las
YouTube
Vegas
videos
about Las Vegas. And I was like, that is not what I would suggest right now, Jess. Fascinating suggestion.
No. I think it's VAGAS.
Yes.
The Vegas
I got there in
nerve.
the end. Context,
it's
please. There's just a moment of I was really worried about your sanity.
Yeah. No, don't go to Vegas. Don't go get married in Vegas.
No split decisions right now. Feels like a good rule,
No.
Including, gambling your life savings or anything like that. But
That's right. Don't do any of those things.
Okay, let's get into the actual question and out of Vegas. So with all the news about
Viva Las Vegas. Sorry, had to be done.
It was required. With all the news about the Trump administration's threats to nonprofits that don't support him, I just have a question. Is there a reality where they can do more than just take away our status? Can they take away our money and our assets? There's just like so much panic out there, but I want to know what the real threats are.
Okay, I love this question, like hashtag honesty. I love this question because I feel like this is something that's percolating. I've seen the peoples on the TikToks and the Instagram reels and the whatever. People are freaking out and thinking that the government can take your money. And the answer, this very simple answer is no. The president does not have the authority to seize the assets of a nonprofit just because he feels like it or he doesn't like you. The president definitely cannot individually, as an individual person, target a certain kind of organization or mission. He can't say all these nonprofits are bad, take their stuff. That's not legal. Under the system we have set up, he cannot do that. Now, I will say there is some limited authority for the president to designate a particular nonprofit organization as a foreign terrorist organization. But there are rules around that. And this is something we talked about this in a previous episode with that HR 9495 thing. There are rules around this, and it already exists, and it's existed for a long time. And the organization has to have like a business presence in a foreign country, not just be getting money, donations from a foreign country. That's not enough. They need to have like operational effect in a foreign country. And then also the group has to have done something illegal that includes violence. So those are the prerequisites to being designated a foreign terrorist organization. And it only applies to a single nonprofit. It's not like categorical. It's like this particular nonprofit, we are designating them. And there is like a public list that's available. You can search it online of like nonprofits who've been affected by this and have been like permanently revoked, you know, and it's like 9 organizations like ever. So it's a very limited thing affecting a very small number of nonprofits. And like in that previous episode we did, there are some concerns about new laws like that HR 9495 bill, which would expand the pool of nonprofits to include organizations that are supporting terrorism. And that bill doesn't distinguish between foreign or domestic. And we've already seen this administration start to leverage the words domestic terrorism to like do things like rendition people to El Salvador and all of that. But there's no existing rules about nonprofits and domestic terrorism at all right now. So there's no like legal things on the books that would authorize the president to do anything unless you were a foreign terrorist organization.
Yeah. That makes sense. But it's one of those things that the scary part of it is much more compelling than the reasonable laws part of it. So it's so easy to get caught up in the chatter. And I've seen a lot of chatter online about nonprofits or individuals who are like wanting to take extreme measures against all of this stuff. So like for nonprofits, talking about like protecting their funding with some like crazy actions and stuff. Like, what do you think about all that stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just remember that clickbait, people need you to click, and rage and fear are the things that get you to click. So just remember that is a thing, okay? And if you think about it for too long, you can get really worked up. Like I myself get very worked up, right? Like I'm working with all of these groups of all different flavors and varieties, and like I worry about them and all of that. So for folks in the mission area that like say are providing international humanitarian relief, that's a scary place to be right now with everything that's pending. And they're justified in being worried, right? People at organizations with a really politically hot mission, right? Think abortion clinic that's a nonprofit, or trans supporting organization that's a nonprofit. But that's like a select group of missions, mostly international humanitarian, and then anybody that's Project 2025 is clearly going to be targeting, are justified in worrying. But then we need to talk about like what's a reasonable action. And so I've seen a lot of crazy bad ideas. Let me just tell you some of the crazy bad ideas. And these are bad ideas. Let me just preface this. Bad ideas. This is not a to-do list. This is a don't-do list. So prepaying years of rent. or staff wages to reduce your cash on hand because you think the government is going to come in and seize all your money. Don't do that. Creating a whole new entity, starting a 501c4, starting a for-profit, starting an LLC subsidiary, just to put money in because you think that somehow that's safer because it's not in a C3. Don't do that. Don't do that. Moving money overseas to another country, like for safekeeping. No, don't do that. Firing all your employees and then like rehiring them under another entity. You don't need to do that. You don't have to do that. These are all bad ideas for a variety of reasons, pretty much regardless of the circumstances. I will say if you do have international operations where you have like boots on the ground in country and you support that work there, that may make sense for you to move the amount of money that you need to support operating in the country to that international place, to a bank in that country. But all the money that you need for boots on the ground in the United States and operating in the United States, you want to keep in the United States. So don't do anything super crazy, and don't do anything like really crazy, like start all your supporters on a campaign to like sign up .gov emails so that the government gets spammed with 1 million. Like, don't be poking the bear. Like, that's not a good plan. Don't do that either. I've seen a lot of comments on people wanting to do that sort of thing, and that's not great. The main thing is to stay calm. If you are in one of the mission areas that is like actually really, you're a larger organization, you're working on women's rights, you're working on trans rights, you're in international humanitarian aid, something that's really under fire right now. If you think you might be affected, you should not be doing all these other crazy things. You should be talking to people with deep expertise in nonprofit law and getting good advice, not making up scenarios to squirrel away money. Look, I'm actually way more concerned if we go into an economic bad time. I'm very much concerned about clients and nonprofits who have too much money in their bank and your deposits exceed the FDIC insurance amount that's covered and your bank collapses. That feels way more risky and way more likely to me than somehow the government would seize all your assets and you should go through this complicated thing to try and like hide your money. Like, where are you putting your money right now? Like, how about you make sure that your actual money is insured where it's at in America first? So if that's you, get that house in order and stop worrying about a seizure and like take reasonable steps. We've got another episode about data retention policies. That's another great place where you can take action steps to protect your organization. So check out that episode for that. But like, don't do some of these other crazy things because the government cannot come in and take your money. And if they can, frankly, we're
in a different reality.
I can't say it without swearing.
As if we've actually
the poop's hitting the fan at a whole other level.
Come on, Jess.
We have sworn
many times.
Even my child has sworn. 100%. Apologize for all the sensitive ears out there.
Sometimes you just get work.
Yeah, but I mean, just kind of to go back to the top, it's like if you're laying awake at 3 a.m. and you're kind of ruminating about like maybe we should fire all of our staff and form a different company and hire them and have this weird cost share agreement, like woo-sa, okay, Serenity now. Like we need to unplug and watch some old Seinfeld episodes and get back into your body and go to therapy and get some good legal advice so that you can sleep at night and not come up with all these ideas that are bad.
Right. So to wrap this up and kind of give you the overall points here, no, the president or the federal government cannot just decide to seize your assets or your money from your bank accounts. Like, that is not something that they have the authority to do. There are some real threats to nonprofit organizations out there. That is not one of them. And if we get to that place, we will have another conversation about it. But for now, the biggest thing is, what can you do for your organization and frankly, for your own sanity right now? Like, that is way more important than coming up with contingency plans. And when you see creators or other people on the internet talking through all of these like creative ways to get around this for sure threat that is definitely coming for your nonprofit. Like that is the kind of fear mongering that we need to turn off and focus back in on what is your impact? What are you trying to do right now? How can we grow that and strengthen the organization from the inside, not these creative, very, very bad ideas, as Jess would like to underline one more time. So did I miss anything, Jess?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the word contingency plan, and that just reminds me that a lot of groups don't have a contingency plan at all. And so if something, a lot of times anxiety can be relieved by feeling like you're regaining a sense of control. And that's why we like do all these weird things like hoard toilet paper in the pandemic, right? So if you need an outlet for that sense of control, I think actually a reasonable contingency plan that's not necessarily based on what if this and what if the government and what, but just like the actual day-to-day reality. What if our key fundraising person gets hit by a bus? What if our executive director was no longer with us? Some of those core, just who is the next person in charge? How would that work? You know, download our 2025 survival guide. It talks a lot about like, it's okay to make a contingency plan. And there's a way to do that that's not trying to think of every possible what if, because that just leads you back to the rabbit hole. So if that helps give you like a to-do right now, I think that's great.
Channel that energy into things that are actually actionable. That's really easy to say. That are actionable right now and helpful right now, even if in all likelihood, none of your funds will be seized. Let's talk about the things that are actually going to help the nonprofit today.
Yeah. Well, folks, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. If you know someone who is thinking about doing something crazy like signing up Elon Musk for a bunch of porn spam or something, help them stop. Don't mess with Doge. Don't poke the bear. Listen to this podcast and then take 10 deep breaths. We're going to be okay. If you have a story to share or you have a question about anything, including these unprecedented times nonprofits are living through, send us a note. Go to charitytherapy.show and get at us. We will keep it anonymous. And thanks for listening.